I thought it was very interesting that after Kanye got booted off of Instagram and then his account frozen on Twitter for these comments about Jews, he's going to go DEFCON 3 on Jewish people, he announced he's buying Parler. He's buying Parler, the embattled Parler that got completely screwed over after January 6th by Amazon and everybody else who wouldn't give it a platform. It did come back, though its battles continued. And now Kanye's buying what's essentially a Twitter competitor. Is it too late for Parler? And what do you make of it?
This supports my long-running debate with David Sachs that there is a free and open market to compete effectively with social media platforms, as they're called, in this country today and around the world. Sachs has made the case that the town square has become Twitter, and we need to have the government intervene to regulate and support freedom of speech on these platforms. And I've made the case that there can be many platforms. The internet is, default open. Anyone can build a website. Anyone can build a service. You can build your own server farm. You can build your own data center. You can launch a website. And the argument has been that we need to get Section 230 rewritten, and we need to get this government to intervene and make sure freedom of speech enables that. Now, I've made the case, I don't think that's true. Because if the audience doesn't like what's happening on one of these platforms, another one will emerge and it will compete. And I think that's what we're seeing. I think Kanye behind Parler might build an audience. They get the right tech people involved and they could rebuild that service. And ultimately that could be a viable competitor and a viable alternative to some of the other scaled social media platforms. So I don't think anyone has a monopoly in social media, in video, in audio, in communication channels, in Twitter. I think all of these services are up for competition. And I think that there could be a lot of new services where you start to see almost like a balkanization of media online that kind of breaks down a lot of these, what people are calling monopolies today. But Sachs and I will have this debate. Yeah.
Well, I want to hear this debate, but let me tee it up to you, Sachs, as follows. So Elon was reportedly inspired to make his original bid for Twitter after they shut the account of the Babylon Bee. Kanye may have been inspired by the fact that he got bounced off of 2 of the social media platforms. So it's kind of funny to me to see a pattern of the more right-leaning people who get targeted, the more we do see competition. But we all know what happened to Parler when it tried to be the right-wing Twitter. These like Amazon and Apple and all these others pulled the platform to where they couldn't operate. So go ahead. Right. I'll give you your response.
Right. Well, I have a hard time believing that the answer to these big tech monopolies' control over speech in our society is Kanye West. I mean, sorry. I don't believe that Kanye is going to be able to break their gigantic network effects that sustain their monopolies. And remember, all of these big tech companies generally act in sync and in concert with respect to these speech rules. So if you get banned on one platform, all the others follow suit. That's exactly what happened with Trump. First, he got banned by Twitter, and then all these other platforms followed suit. So it's great that maybe there's some free market competition happening here. I just don't think it's going to be sufficient, which is why I believe that these big tech monopolies need to be treated like common carriers who are not allowed to discriminate on the basis of people's viewpoints. Now, I do think Friedberg raises a interesting point, which is what level of the stack should common carrier be applied at? And I do think you can make the case that it shouldn't be applied at the level of a Twitter or Parler because those sites will always have some messy content moderation issues to deal with. But I do believe that at minimum, we need to apply common carrier to the so-called dumb pipes below the stack. So that would include AWS. Remember that the way that Parler got thrown off the internet was because AWS canceled them. And also Amazon. The app stores canceled them. So I do not believe that the app stores, that AWS, that banks, and big financial platforms like PayPal, who should never be in the business of content moderation anyway, those companies should not be able to engage in deplatform and discrimination.
Can we talk about that? Can we just talk about how absurd the PayPal thing was? So as I understand it, they now claim, it was a mistake that was released. That was never really our policy. But of course, they're going to claim that because they were humiliated. But somehow it was released that they had a plan in place to fine users to steal money of $1,500 from users of PayPal who were engaging in misinformation on the internet, not having anything to do with PayPal. It's not like it'd be controversial enough if you were out there saying, PayPal's a fraud, PayPal's terrible, and they tried to do this to you. But essentially, I think the plan was if I went out there and said, the vaccines are killing people, $1,500 was going to be gone from my account with PayPal. Totally unconstitutional and illegal, but this was originally their plan, as I understand it, until it got accidentally leaked and the internet lost its mind. But the hubris of your old organization, David, to think that they could get away with that.
I know. And it wasn't a mistake. I mean, there's no way you don't change the terms of service on your website. This is reviewed by hundreds of lawyers. They don't do that accidentally. And the reason why we know for sure it's not a mistake is it's actually a continuation of the policies that have been in place. They started over a year ago. I wrote a piece last summer talking about how PayPal was working with Democratic partisan groups like the ADLC, like the Southern Pacific Law Center, to identify conservative individuals and groups to be blacklisted from their service. Again, discrimination on the basis of viewpoint. What business does PayPal have getting into the political views of people using its platform? It doesn't need to be in the business of content moderation. And yet last year, it was proudly announcing that that's what it was doing, is discriminating and deplatforming people based on their political views. This was a continuation of that policy. And they want to encourage other companies in Silicon Valley to follow their lead and follow suit. This is the next wave of cancellation, which is we're not just going to take away your free speech rights. We're going to take away your rights to accept payments, to earn money, to transact. In other words, we're not only going to censor you, we are going to try and starve you out until you have the politically correct views. PayPal and these other big tech companies should not be allowed to do that. This should be agenda item 1 for the Republicans when they take back Congress, which is to restore the rights of the common man to have speech and to earn a living in this economy.
Well, it's like the GoFundMe shutdowns during the Canadian trucker protests, right? I mean, I heard my pals over on National Review talking about how if you're a bank and you need a license to operate or any sort of government permission slip, this should be illegal. They should absolutely be able to stop you from discriminating against your customer base, against them doing business with you based on their political viewpoints. Go ahead, Friedberg.
Right.
No, I mean, but look, it started before politics. And I think that we need to be cognizant of the fact that there were precedents set here. So about a year and a half ago, there was a claim made about some pornography websites exploiting, I don't know if it was a child porn or a non-consent porn that was uploaded. And the credit card network said, we're going to stop servicing these pornography websites. And they stopped allowing payments to them. And then Bill Ackman earlier this year went on a big crusade. I think this was in August, actually, where he said Visa, MasterCard, and Amex need to stop making payment services to pornography websites in this country. They're exploiting women and there's sex slavery and all sorts of other things happening. And so it may be true that that is what's going on. But the precedent then gets set that the mechanism for resolution isn't to go to the Department of Justice and file criminal charges and get these issues resolved. It's to go to the credit card networks and get them to shut off that service. And as soon as that happens, a precedent is now set that if there's something that the majority disagrees with and that the majority thinks is morally wrong, then the majority can leverage its voice with the network to turn something off. And so a lot of people, I think, listening might say, you know what, that sounds reasonable. We should shut off payments to the pornography websites. Then the problem comes around that when it's about the voice that you want to hear, or it's about the service that you want to subscribe to, and you can no longer access it, you can no longer get it, you can no longer earn, now we take concern. Any precedent setting, I think, creates the slippery slope where you have a real problem down the road on resolution.
Are you tired of feeling like someone's always watching you on the internet? Maybe the advertisers know a little too much about you, or you're concerned about the privacy of your identity. Using incognito mode will not solve the problem either. IPVanish VPN is here to protect your right to privacy and to help you stay anonymous online. IPVanish helps you safely browse the internet without exposing your private details to third parties like hackers, your ISP, or advertisers. When you use IPVanish, all of your data is encrypted. This means your private details, passwords, communications, browsing history, and more will be completely shielded from falling into the wrong hands. Even your physical location will be hidden. IPVanish is offering an incredible 70% off their yearly plan for our listeners with a 30-day money-back guarantee. That is like getting 9 months for free. IPVanish is super easy to use. All you have to do is tap one button and you are instantly protected. Take your privacy back today with the brand rated 4.6 out of 5 on Trustpilot. Go to ipvanish.com/Megyn and use that promo code MEGYN to claim your 70% savings. That's ipvanish.com/Megyn. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.